Hi everyone, thanks for watching. You can support our work on our website ageoftruth.tv. And please like our videos, subscribe to our channels on YouTube, BitChute and Brighteon. And remember to hit the bell for notifications. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook. To be sure not to miss any of our shows, you can sign up for our newsletter on our website ageoftruth.tv.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Age of Truth TV. I'm Lucas Alexander in Copenhagen, Denmark. And we welcome you to part one of our new series, Life Stories, where you'll be introduced to different people with very different, unusual, extraordinary, and often horrendous and extreme experiences, life stories that can either inspire change, help to transform, or inform those who research delicate and otherworldly topics all out of the norm. Our guest today is an actor, performance artist, writer, animator, and mime. He is half Swedish, half Brazilian, and has turned his life upside down, having transformed his shocking trauma-based childhood into art and creativity. He was raised by a child-abusing, satanic mother who was a black magic voodoo witch within Macumba Cult circles, performing dark ritual ceremonies, and a child-molesting, self-serving father. Fear, trauma, and other well-known mind control techniques were a frequent part of his childhood, and after growing up, becoming a punk, a drug addict, and attempting suicide several times, he found his path as an artist, writer, and actor, and can now be an inspiration to those who's gone through similar experiences. There's a lot to talk about when we meet SERAFÍN ZIQUER XAVIER. SERAFÍN ZIQUER XAVIER.
Perfect.
That is your amazing name, and it's really fascinating to welcome you on the show, because this is a new type of program that we also want to do, a program series called Life Stories. And we know that you have a really fascinating and unbelievable, unusual, extraordinary, and hair-raising life story to share with us today. And I want to say thank you so much for being with us on Age of Truth TV.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, as I just said, your life story is rather unusual. It's outrageous, and it reminds me very much of people that we have had on the show before that were mind-controlled slaves. This is, mind control techniques were used on you, whether or not you actually know or believe that you were subjected to MK Ultra mind control. But this is usually done through trauma and rape, pedophilia, and of course severe beatings and incredible things that happens to people, usually children. And this is also what we're going to talk to you about today. Your mother was a black magic witch, a satanic witch who was performing voodoo and something that you're going to explain to us called Macumba.
Yes.
She was from Brazil, and you're half Brazilian and half Swedish. You also have a Swedish name called Glenn, and your father was Swedish.
Yes.
And he was not there a lot. You're going to talk to us about that, but he certainly molested you. And this is just to set the scene because there is so much to talk about, and because of all of the trauma that you went through in your life as a child. You also had an early history in your life as a drug addict, and you went through a lot of wild periods in your life. You tried to commit suicide a few times, and this is just to really start off here, because what is the first thing that you remember about your childhood as far back as you can remember, and about your parents?
I don't have like so many other people have. They have like a line they can like remember through. I have like like images. With my mom, we could always expect that we were going to get visitors from spirits and stuff like that. So it's everything from starting school at the age of 6, I think, being taught by nuns and priests in a Catholic school, actually.
So you were in Catholic school in
Santos.
Brazil.
Yeah, in Santos. Yeah.
And you were raised as a Catholic.
I was raised as a Catholic, and but I mean, like my name, like Ziquer Xavier. Ziquer is actually Zacharias, so it's Jewish. But after the Second World War, a lot of Jews didn't want to, the world to necessarily know they were Jews, so they changed the name because they were afraid from the Nazis. They changed Zacharias to Ziquer.
You're half Jewish, right?
Yeah, I'm Jewish. I mean, like you can't be half. I mean, if from your mother's side you are Jewish, but I don't practice Judaism or anything like that.
Did your mom play an important role in your life also when you were in Sweden in the first couple of years before you moved to Brazil?
My dad was an alcoholic because he used to be a sailor. That's how they met. So he was like drinking a lot. And so they got separated. So I was actually only living with my mom, both me and my sister.
So you are, of course, an actor and a performance artist and very creative, and you have turned, let's say, poison into creative healing medicine in a way in your life, and changed your life very dramatically, and it's been quite a journey. But how did it start? I mean, you say that your mom was Jewish, but she was also a black magic witch.
Well, my mom was, somewhere they converted to Catholicism, And I don't know how my mom got into Macumba, because that, I guess, it happened before I was born. And Macumba, with Macumba, you can actually have Catholicism and Satanism and different kind of religions in. That's how open Macumba is. It's not a restricted religion, if you say so. You can actually, pick pieces from different type of other religions. In Macumba, you can also have indigenous rituals from
indigenous rituals.
Yeah, from the Amazon rainforest.
Yeah. Please tell the audience a little bit about Macumba. What is it exactly?
It's Macumba is something that came from Africa, of course, just like capoeira. It came with the slaves, and it was voodoo. And I guess, like in Africa, you have also different kind of voodooism, if you say so. And in Brazil, it started developing. From voodoo it became Macumba, just because they took this different type of ritual from different part of, And everywhere in South America where actually slaves came, you have different types of macumba, but it may not be called macumba. It might be called something else in Chile, in Argentina, and stuff like that. And what you do with it is that you use it for good, you use it for evil. You use it to bring luck and wealth to yourself, but you also use it to destroy other people's lives. So, I can tell you, like, we went down there in '93, for example, and there was this guy from United States, this parent, they lost their 4-year-old child, and they couldn't find him at all. And in Brazil, they actually show you, at least they did, they show everything on television. They don't really have any censorship. So being there 3 months, by the end of those 3 months before we were going back, they actually found the 4-year-old child crucified upside down in a graveyard, in a cemetery, and a video of these Macumba people eating this child's heart. So,
really?
Yeah. And that was, of course, for Satan. And that was actually to get power from Satan, to make them rich.
So do they actually, perform? Do they worship Satan in Macumba? They can. I mean, like, it's like you can, like, pick the side. What would the side, like, either you want to do only white magic, let's call it that, or either you just want to do black magic, or either you want to kind of like be in the middle and do both, But isn't it dangerous even to do any of it if this one thing can be used for all these horrible things and for good? How can it be good then?
Well, I think if you only practice white magic, like the white part of it, the force of nature and stuff like that, then you're more doing it, like to let's say that you are a troubled soul, and then you can actually get some healing where they can actually guide you, and you can have a spiritual
journey,
like, exactly,
like a spiritual awakening or healing.
Exactly, and then you don't do any of this other stuff. You only do it to help people. While the other one is a little bit more like. Sometimes I feel the one in the middle is a little bit more egoistic than the one to the right or the one to the left, because often what I experienced was that they used white magic for themselves, but they used black magic to cast evilness, on other people.
So they were actually evil. There was no purity and no real goodness.
In the one in the middle, they weren't like, So you have the one in the middle that I see more egoistic because they're like kind of like do everything for themselves, and then you have the one the worship Satan and only doing black magic, and they are also doing everything for themselves, and then you have the one performing the white part of it.
Do you know if your parents had any ties or were connected in any way to top elitist people that were part of the elite or part of, let's say, secret societies in one way or the other, where they also do satanic rituals, but they also find these subjects for mind control, especially children. They program children with mind control through MK Ultra, which we know from the Nazi scientists and Operation Paperclip and all of that. Because you were exposed to a lot of this same techniques.
These people found the technique somewhere. We were to Macumba ceremonies as a child. Like, for example, I remember me and my sister, they dressed me and my sister in white clothes completely. Laid her down on a blanket, and they were like on top of. We laid on top of flowers, and then we had these white ladies that I can't remember. I don't know if you saw the link, but these white ladies that were like dancing in circles, And me and my sister were just lying there, and they were dancing and they were singing, and one thing I remember is that one of them dropped, like they dropped down to the floor, and then they helped her up, and then her eyes were completely white and she was speaking with a different voice.
So she was speaking in tongues and she was being possessed by demons.
She wasn't speaking in tongues. She fell down, and then they helped her up, and then she was speaking with a completely different voice.
So something had entered her through this ritual. It was because of the ritual.
I believe, it was, yeah.
What do you think entered that woman? How do you remember it?
I can't remember what it said and what it was about, because that's where it stops. It stops when she actually starts talking, and and I can't remember, but I knew it was special that me, as a blonde child in Brazil with blue eyes, my sister has brown eyes, but she had like really long blonde hair. I think it's a little bit powerful.
That's what they want.
Yeah.
So talk about your mother. She was part of these black magic rituals.
Yeah.
You've said yourself that she was a witch, and you do say that she was actually into witchcraft.
Yeah.
And how did you experience this? Because you went through a lot of cruelty with her. So try and tell us about your life story as a child with your mother. What happened to you as a child?
The thing was that my mom, at the same time as she can be as innocent as a child, she could turn into this monster. And I know that both me and my sister could sometimes be afraid that she was possessed. And they were actually, because what these witches has, they have someone that is guarding over them and like sending them letters. At that time there weren't any emails, and telling them like, now you better be careful, there's a lot of this going on and there's a lot of that going on, and they call it the one that actually tells the future.
Fortune tellers, or
sorceress. Exactly. And it was this type
medium.
Of it was this type of, and everyone kind of like had it. And I remember my mom had one, an old lady. I met her, really sweet, and she had one for like, I guess her whole life. And I remember at one time that this lady said that she was going on too deep and she should be careful that she doesn't go crazy. But my mom wasn't really listening to any of this, And there were actually a woman underneath when we lived in Sweden that was living in the apartment underneath us that actually died of a heart attack. And my mom she actually got strangled. She got strangled. She got pushed to the wall and got strangled by this spirit. And then she didn't really know what it was. And then I think the next day her husband came up and said that her name was Inger actually, had died. So it was actually my mom that made this connection that it was her,
So your mom, through the spirits, through those evil spirits, killed the woman.
My mom claims is that her spirit came up to her to our apartment, and while she was standing in the bathroom, she got attacked by this Inge. Yeah. So yeah.
But that could just be her version of it.
I mean, like
Why would she be attacked by somebody downstairs?
It was something that she said that she had upset her in a way. I can remember. I was a young child, but Inger, she was actually drinking a lot, and she was actually coming up to us a lot. And I think my mom turned her away, and didn't want to talk because she was a little bit like it was a little bit too much. She always came up to us drunk and stuff like that. So, but yeah, so this was our childhood. We always got a little bit sometimes visited by different spirits, and I was scared really scared to fall asleep. So I really, I was always lying and watching my shoulder. Sometimes I went into my sister's bed and and not even there I could fall asleep because I was always peeking, up, like, is someone watching us right now? So yeah, and like I said, she could be really funny and make really good jokes and stuff like that and be like a child, but then she could turn into this monster. Both me and my sister grew older. We were like, it didn't really feel like her, and it could be like everything, like this glass of water is supposed to stand here, but it was standing over there. And then she starts by calling us, and actually sometimes it was both me and my sister at the same time. Sometimes it was just me, and sometimes it was just my sister. So, and then we had to guess what it was that was wrong, and we started like moving around, like, okay, no, it's not this one. Is it this one? No. And this you could see by her face, because she was always going like, she was always closing her eyes a little bit, like, and going, like this. And she was just watching. She was just standing still watching. And the more time, this took hours to solve. This was like totally,
It took hours?
Yeah, it took hours where you were just standing there. Sometimes you stood there to like 3 o'clock in the night. Or
and
morning.
she was just looking at you with this evil face.
Yeah, exactly.
What did her eyes look like?
Well, she either they were like become like really small, or they became like really big, like I'm gonna attack you soon or something like that. And if it like went on without us solving that this glass was supposed to stand there, she started like counting and stamping with her feet, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like this, and moving forward. And then either you could get like really hit, like with fist and everything like that. I remember I made a baseball bat at school, and I came home. I was really proud of it, and she was like, "Thank you. I know what I'm gonna use it for." So she could stand with that and like hit you with that,
She was hitting you with a baseball bat.
Yeah.
This was a very tough, violent, physical type of abuse.
Yeah, it was abuse. It wasn't like, you just got slapped around a little bit. It was like you ended up bleeding, and a swollen face and stuff like that, And so that was the beginning. And if we didn't solve, it got, of course, worse, She could take a knife and she could point it at you while you were standing in a corner. And the more you kind of like, how was it? The more you, I think it was the more you cried, she was like, you're pressing it in. She never punched her though, but she would press it in and she would spit in your face, And yeah, or it was taking a cable antenna and around, and then she
around what?
Your throat
And trying to strangle you with it.
No, she strangled you, but she, before you lost consciousness, she let go. She let go, So.
How old were you at that time?
I mean, like this started like really early. I think it started already when I was 7 years old. So.
7?
Yeah, 7 years, 6 years old.
But do you think it started before? Do you have any memory?
No, I don't. No.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can remember, it started actually in Brazil. And I remember in Santos, we were living in an apartment. That is the first time I remember that. Okay.
Why would you do that?
She always told us that this was how she was raised. I can't really say why, but for me it became natural that this was how she was raised, and it became kind of like a habit for her to also raise her child like that. There were some illness in her.
I'll say.
Yeah. So.
Was she what you would term a psychopath?
I think what the doctors in Sweden said, like she had some kind of like schizophrenia and this manodepressive Yeah, yeah.
Manic depressive.
Manic depressive. Yeah.
That people also call bipolar now, but but that doesn't make you do all of these things and taking part in these rituals and doing these ceremonies as a Macumba black magic witch, which was performing Satanism as well. So what she did to you and to your sister was inflicting trauma and to take you through some kind of trauma programming in a way, because it was instilling fear in you from a very early age. Do you ever remember not being fearful of your mother?
No, I was always fearful. And when she died, I remember that me and my sister, we were like, oh my God, as long as she doesn't come back, you know. Because we were like, no, we don't want to see her again. We were, of course, very sad when she died and stuff like that. I think the one that was most sad was my sister, and that was a shocker because she always treated my sister worse than she treated me.
Worse?
Yeah. It was like times where I got home. The only way I could get out was to sneak out. So if I was living on the third floor, I could sometimes not go through the front door, to the stairway. I had to like learn to climb out the balcony and stuff like that. But I also remember that when we were living in a house that was like 2 floors, sometimes you came home and it was completely dark and it was like blood in the hallway at the bottom floor, and just hearing my sister cry, and stuff like that. And that was real horrible, And then
did you see what she did to your sister?
Well, she did what she did to me. She was like beating the crap out of her,
For no reason.
Well, she had a reason. So
she would invent something that wasn't reality, that wasn't true.
Yeah.
Like saying this glass on the table is supposed to stand there, and it wasn't.
Yeah, you moved it.
So it was her sick and twisted mind that made her do that.
Yeah.
But she also sexually abused you, right?
She sometimes called my name and asked me to pull down my pants, and then she was touching my private parts, and but she never put it in her mouth. She never jerked it off. She was mostly just like staring at it and touching it. I can't really remember how often it was, but at the same time, it became like very normal for me, okay, she's looking at and touching my penis. When I was 13-year-old, I started to become like very much taller than her,
So it happened until you were 13?
Yeah, might be so, yeah.
And went into puberty?
Yeah, because then I, kind of like, it became more difficult for her to actually assault me physically or mentally or anything like that. I remember when I was like 14 or maybe even 15, and she was trying to hit me, and I just was like, boom, I just grabbed her there and grabbed her there and just laid her down carefully and said like, I'm not that small anymore. And then I just left, And then she got like really upset because she couldn't, I was untouchable. Mm-hmm. So then I didn't care what she said. I just went out the front door. I didn't climb out the balcony. I didn't sneak out. I was like, yeah, whatever you did to me, you can't do worse anymore, Mm-hmm.
So that was then when finally you had enough, and then you could stop her doing that.
Absolutely. I even looked at my sister and said, hey, you should get out too, But my sister had another type of loyalty. She stayed for 2 years more.
Which was some kind of Stockholm syndrome, really.
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah.
Both of you had that.
Yeah. I mean, like it's strange, right? It's like you can like become like a dog. You still have some kind of affection and love, even though a mother or a father that is hurting you. Even though you should have revealed who they are for a long time. And when I was in 9th grade, I went to the not school principal, but you can call her a psychiatrist, and I said like, hey, I had enough. Because like all those years you've been running around hiding bruises. If you had 2 big ones, you called in sick. So, but in the end, I went to the school psychiatrist and said I had enough. I don't want to live home anymore. And the thing that shocked me was her response was like, "I've been waiting 3 years for you to say this." Yeah. So she actually knew about all the abuse. But there is some kind of law that says that she cannot interfere, and I have to, like, speak out.
So the school principal, was it the
No,
school principal?
Psychiatrist, something.
The school psychiatrist knew about this and didn't interfere, didn't intervene.
Yeah. But I'm calling her a psychiatrist, but I don't think she was a psychiatrist, but it's like one the kids can go talk to if they have problems at home, So,
but they didn't do anything. They just let this happen.
Yeah.
And children being molested and abused.
Yeah. But I mean, like, the house, the 2-floor house, had another part. We were splitting it with somebody else. It was like, what do you call those houses that are like put together and then split? Yeah.
One big building and 2 families lived there with a wall in between.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, our neighbors could hear us, like, because it wasn't silent crying and silent. It was, you can say, the crying was more like, like when it becomes like screaming. So they must have heard it. So I mean, like, there was a lot of people that knew that they didn't interfere, So
she was touching your privates, and you are actually saying that that became like nothing because the physical abuse was so violent. And then when she was touching your private parts, then it was like not really anything special.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Did she ever ask you to do anything sexual to her?
No, she didn't. That's my dad, I can't remember what age I was, but yeah, he actually physically raped me. And when I became older, and
how old do you think you were when your father raped you?
I think that's a good question. I think I might be 4 years. Have been 4 years old. Yeah.
What happened? How do you remember it? This must be the first, or was it the first really big trauma?
He came when I was in the toilet, and he physically abused me. Yeah, without me understanding that was going on, but it was hurting, and I was "Hey, Dad, that hurts," and he said like, "Yeah, easy, I'm soon done," like that. Yeah.
So as a 4-year-old, this was even penetration.
Yeah. No. It was a burning. The thing that happens when you penetrate. Yeah, and I don't really know how long it went on. I don't know if it's a shield or anything like that. I just remember, that I had pain many days after, and my mom kept asking like, "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" And I was like, I don't know. And she found out though, because she said that she looked and she said like that she could clearly see that that I've been raped, and that's actually why we moved over to Brazil.
So your mom took you away from your dad because he raped you.
Yeah.
And then she started the physical abuse big time. And the mental abuse, of course.
Yeah.
But do you think that your father was part of this satanic cult in a way? Do you think that maybe they both could have been without you knowing it? Because do you remember everything that happened to you as a child? Is everything clear in your memory?
No, absolutely not. I only remember fragments and have some images.
You could be compartmentalized, traumatized in a way that a lot has been, let's say, locked into a certain compartment of your brain, and you don't have access to see all of what maybe really happened.
My father, he was like still in Sweden.
But he raped his own son.
Yeah. But
why do you think he did that? What was wrong with the man?
This I can't answer. It's I
Do
haven't.
you think he was part of a pedophile network?
This I don't know. I have no idea actually. So.
And do you think he would? I mean, can you imagine that maybe he wanted to bring you into this pedophile circle? Which is what is happening, by the elitists and also people who are in this dark web.
Yeah, I can't really answer that because, as I said, as a child, I don't really have like full memory, and we lived in Brazil, and we lived there for a long time, and when we came back to Sweden. After living in Brazil, I remember that I remember the beginning was that I started school, and they said something is wrong with this kid. So they put me in special school. So they moved me over to another school, and from there they put me in the mental hospital because I wasn't playing as a normal child.
So you were placed in a mental institution
for kids,
in a mental hospital for kids.
Yeah.
How old were you then?
Maybe around like 10 or something. Yeah.
How long were you there for?
Maybe 9. Yeah, because this I can't say either. I just remember that I tried to escape, but they were always more clever than me. And I remember that I had to go and see a doctor who, in the middle of the room, there was this sandbox, and he was going to watch me play. And he was taking notes. And I wasn't even playing with sandbox. I was climbing high buildings and, jumping from roofs and down to trees and stuff like that. Because I started to have more connection with animals than human beings.
Animal telepathy, speaking to connecting with
animals.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't anything like that. It was more like a little bit unconscious connection. I was very amused of cats and their ability to jump and stuff like that. So that was how I was playing. And that was striking fear in a lot of parents. I remember that many times when I got out to the yard, the parents opened the windows and said, like, "Don't play with Glenn, he's dangerous," and all the kids ran away. So, they were concerned, and that's why I guess they put me, because I wasn't behaving as a normal child.
How could you, having been exposed to all of this trauma?
Yeah.
But I mean, so possibly you could have been raped more times by your father and not remember.
Yeah.
Did it happen again? As far as you remember or recall?
As I remember, the only thing I remember is that when it was one time when I was older, maybe around, let's say, 9 years old or something. I went over to live with my dad, and I can't remember how long I lived there. I know it was more than weeks, so it was probably some months. And then I was lying watching television on a mattress on the floor, lying television, and then he came home and then he crawled over me, on top of me, and he said, like, Glenn, can I lay naked on you? But at that time I have developed an attitude because, my friends on the street, my friends, they had like parents that were alcoholics. So we all came from a tough environment, and we all had to defend ourselves. You know, we were fighting, but we weren't fighting like people are fighting today. But you still had to have an attitude. So I said, like, get away from me, you motherfucker, or something like that. You know, and then he got shocked because I met him with aggression, and he went like, I was only joking, you know, like that, you know, and he went away, you know. So I guess at that point he understood that he couldn't really touch me, you know. Mm-hmm. I got transferred from normal school to this school that was out in the forest. It was this big old house where we were living there, and we were taught everything from because I was quite late to learn how to write and read, and also to say when I was born. You know, I couldn't say that. I didn't know when my birthday was. So I got taught everything like that, and it was quite you know, strict. Like, for example, at when we were supposed to eat, the teacher was sitting at each table. And they weren't like, give me the glass of water, or give me the bacon, or something like that. It was like, could you please pass me the bacon? And then, yes. And then you had to say thank you. Mm. No. So you always had to like be polite. And there wasn't anything that was called I should have. Could I please have? And even though it was very strict, I loved the school because you were in the middle of nature. You were kind of like together with the people who were just like you. And these friends, during the weekends or like Easter holiday, Christmas holiday, I were hanging out with them. And they all kind of like had like either parents that were alcoholic, or, you know, like parents that were abusing them and stuff like that.
Broken homes, big time.
Broken homes, big times, yeah. And yeah, sometimes when you were at their place, at their home, I remember two friends of mine that had a mom and a dad that came home, and then her mom asked me like if I could fuck her, and I was like, no, and my friend said like, Mom, stop trying to fuck my friends.
Okay, so. Your friend, how old were you? How old were you and your friend?
I guess we were around like 9, 10, around there.
9 or 10, and you went home to your friend, and his mom asked if you would have sex with her.
Yeah. Well, her dad, his dad was there, you know. So, yeah, so yeah. But I mean, like,
do you think that had happened before with other children?
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, all this became kind of normal. Like, oh, one of those again. You know, we didn't have a word for it. We didn't go like, oh, a pedophile or anything like that. You know, I also remember that when I was living in another place in Gothenburg, there was always one woman.
In Gothenburg, was it in Sweden?
Yeah, in Gothenburg, in Sweden. Yeah. I had to watch out for this lady. It's quite funny. She looked really good from behind, long red hair, but when she turned, she had a hole in her cheek, and she looked like really awful in her face. And she chased me a couple of times and said like, I remember one time when I was playing in the yard, and my sister, she just started staring, and she said, Glenn, run. And I was like, I just ran, and when I ran, I felt his arms like almost grabbing me, and then she was just cursing like, "Oh, these fucking kids that you cannot fuck," you know. So yeah, so it was quite normal. It's
But how do you think? Because you came from this environment, that was like this. It was almost like a universal connection in some kind of way that you had to be exposed to these terrible things. This was repeating. The history was repeating. This doesn't happen to everybody.
No,
you know.
No,
but
it
happened to you, and then more happened, and then you saw more people. Also, you've had this experience with women doing this to you many times. Of course, you had this terrible incident with your father as well. But I mean, also women doing this.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it just became like, normal, I guess, because it happens so often, and I didn't think so much about it. Of course, when I heard the terms that, when women that have abusive husband, they split for the abusive husband and then connect with another abusive husband. Of course, you have struck my mind. Like, oh, is this what's going on with me?
They keep repeating the trauma and going into the same kind of relationship again.
Yeah.
So it's almost like something universally or something. It's an energy connection that you have to, I don't know, go through or something, I don't know, in order to break it, to understand it. Because as I say, it's not something that everybody is experiencing unless they are part of these satanic elite families or something. Which is a network.
I understand what you mean, but I mean, it all broke, all this kind of like connection when I moved to a contact family. I was too old to have a foster family. Then nothing of this happened anymore.
So that was a good thing, moving to and getting a foster
absolutely.
family.
Yeah. Great people. Without them, I wouldn't be here today.
Without them, you would not be here today.
No.
They saved you.
Absolutely, yeah, they did. Absolutely. They were a normal Swedish family. And as much as I can, at that time, get annoyed by it, especially if you go into becoming a punk rocker, all this normality, it becomes kind of like provoking, But what it also did was everything that I thought was normal from my childhood started messing up my identity, So I was like, okay, who am I? What is going on, And why isn't she beating her son? And why isn't this going on, And when he came home drunk, it was like, okay, he's sick, but good you came home. While if I would come home drunk, it was like, it would be, hell on earth, So they really had a tough time because I turned into a wild animal suddenly. It's
because of what your parents had made you.
Yeah, and everything that I reflected upon, I was like, it created this, identity crisis in me, that, and then of course it didn't help by meeting people that were within Gothic culture or punk culture. Some of them were also came from a broken background, and were doing, different kind of drugs.
Mm-hmm. And we want to get into what happened to you at that time as well. But if we go back to some of the trauma you experienced, talk about these rituals. You were present at some of those dark black magic rituals with your mother, right?
Yeah, I mean, as a child, we we had to sometimes pee in a glass, and quite often actually pee in a glass and put it behind the door, and I would like every corner. They always have stuff with corner. Even the stars have stuff with corner, stuff like that. And we had to place it by the door because that would prevent evil spirits from coming in, And then
even though it was created by an evil spirit, huh?
Yeah, but they need to protect themselves.
But didn't it smell terribly?
It didn't. I mean, I can't remember, but it didn't. But it was very awkward when kids came, friends visit. It was very rarely friends were allowed to come in. And when they did, both me and my sister, we were afraid that they were going to look behind the door. And of course they did. And then they picked up this glass of pee and they were like, what is this? And we were like, apple juice, So then they were like, what is it? Why is it doing behind the door? Stuff like that. And then there were also peeing in a bottle, in a big bottle, like a plastic bottle. I think it was like either 3 or 2. Like both me and my sister had to pee in it. And it wasn't like, you peed in it. It wasn't like, and then it was full. you had to pee in it for a couple of days. So you saved it, you know. And I think actually we saved it in the balcony, you know. So it was keeping a little bit chill. Yeah. And then I can't, of course, remember exact when and how, but when it was time for the ceremony, we just either stand in the shower or in a bathtub and like shower in the pee, you know. And that was also to protect yourself from spells, from evil spirits entering your body, giving you luck in life, and yada 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 yada.
That's so disgusting. And it's also, you know, that must be part of this trauma programming and this constant trauma. Because how could this have anything to do with something good and preventing evil spirits? This is so degrading, so malicious.
How to become a macumbero. Like, then you had to go into the cemetery, for example, and you had to spend some nights there, and you had to only survive on the stuff that were in the cemetery, you know. And what my impression of this is like you have to let the dirt in also, you know. So things that are disgusting, you have to taste it, you have to eat it, you know. It has to become a part of you. A little bit like you know, psychopaths do. They take apart sometimes, and they have to, like, you know, guard it. And some people actually eat it. So they become a part of the victim, you know.
Do you think that your mother, she must have taken part or maybe performed many black magic rituals without you and your sister being there?
I mean, like, it started before me and my sister was born. So.
But she went to these seances or these rituals.
This is a Macumba ritual, yeah.
And she did that a lot?
Yeah.
Often?
Yeah, you could say, like, she was obsessed by it, yeah. Almost like, you know, like a Christian or a Muslim that it becomes obsessed by, you know, the Muslim religion or the Christian religion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Going to these ceremonies, where did they perform them?
They were often performed, let's say, how should I call it? Should we call it the suburbs of, like, Santos? That's where I were. I mean, and I guess it's the same in Rio de Janeiro. It's in the suburbs. It's not
in the suburbs. And you lived in Rio de Janeiro?
No, I lived in Santos. That is belongs to the state of São Paulo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's further down south.
It's further. It's the biggest harbor city in Brazil, actually. And that's how my mom and my dad met, because he was a sailor. And
so she was part of this network, and they were doing it very regularly, these ceremonies.
It was often. I can say how regularly it was.
Yeah. So, and do you know if you were there, if you possibly had been taken there some other times and you don't remember it?
Yeah, absolutely. I only remember like 2 or 3 times.
But you were there more.
And then I, of course, remember all this ritual we did at home. Like, you know, I told you with the pee, and also the flies. There were flies that I became an expert at catching in a plastic bag.
Flies? You were catching in a plastic bag?
Yeah. In the summertime, my mom said, go out and catch flies. And then I went out, and, you know, house flies. Are they called house flies? You know, like this black.
Yeah, these usual annoying ones.
Yeah.
In the summer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I became an expert. So to catch them in a plastic bag that you often get free from the grocery. And yeah, if you swang it, while there were flies in, they would be pushed to the bottom, to the end of the bag, so you could catch some more, and then you tied a knot, and then you freeze them in.
You put them in the freezer?
Yeah, until
so they died.
They didn't die, actually. They get frozen down, and they were there until you know, the day of the ceremony. Our freezer. That was also one thing we didn't want friends to look in our freezer and see all the dead flies, the bags with dead flies. And then you know, you took a pan, a frying pan, and olive oil, and you heated it up just right, and then you start putting the flies in, and then they went
The frozen flies.
The frozen flies, and then they actually went zzz, and then they actually died. They died in the pan.
So they weren't dead, but they were just frozen,
Yeah.
like they talk about. You can actually do with humans.
Yeah, exactly.
And they say that some people talk about, some researchers say that they have experimented on humans being frozen down, and then you can
relive them again. Heat them or
resurrect them.
I think
or
Michael Jackson wanted to do that with his head.
Yeah, didn't he talk about that? Some people say that Walt Disney was has been frozen as well.
Okay.
So maybe he can he can arise one day.
One day we really go like, oh, you're back. Yeah, we'll get a new buddy.
So wow, and then you fried these flies. Why?
Well, in olive oil, and then you get naked, you strip naked again, and then you start rubbing them in to your body. So in the end, you were like completely red of both red and black of the meat of the flies and the blood and stuff like that. And that was also to protect you against evilness and stuff like that. So different kind of also I remember my mom saying, make sure to get a lot on your top so you don't get a moon, a half moon when you grow older.
Lose your hair.
Yeah. So it worked, didn't it?
Oh my God, I can't even comprehend this. But I mean, so how did you? I mean, what was this normal to you?
It was normal, but I actually in my teenage I started having like this. I was so incredible in love with this girl. It was the you have this the biggest love that you always have. It won't be another one. This is the one that actually stole your heart. And I started having like nightmares sometimes that we were like standing in the subway holding hands, and there were just flies all around, and they were like crawling, and we weren't doing anything. We were just standing, and that was, I think, the first dream I had about like being covered in flies, like these flies that I also, and then they started coming again and again and again, where I was just having these dreams that these flies were like everywhere, and sometimes
like a Lord of the Flies kind of ritual, being infested with these things, something that triggered your mind because you had to go through all of that madness.
And even today, when flies land, if there would come a fly here and land on the table, I would take it as a sign.
You would still think that that's a sign of what?
I don't know. I would simply say some kind of connection to everything, to the back. That it has a meaning. That it's like
to your past history.
Yeah.
But do you think your mother did that to you in order for you to have a sense of being frightened of going into a relationship? Was it to destroy relationships for you?
You mean in the future she will think
so that if you perform a ritual and it can trigger a certain trauma in your head when you go into a relationship or something.
My mom wanted me and my sister to live with her forever, almost like the movies with me and names today. Psycho, isn't it called?
Psycho, with Anthony Perkins and that mother. Yeah.
So my mom was a little bit like that. She didn't want me to run off and get married. I remember I had this really sweet girl while I was living home that asked if I wanted to come home to her, and I said yeah. But then my mom started like, oh no, this connection I have in Brazil, she said that you will be kidnapped, so she was mind controlling this way, yeah. And then only thing I had to do was like just steer at this car that suddenly drew away, you know. So she didn't like, and I remember also another time when I was much younger that there were a girl in Gothenburg that were in love with me, and she came and knocked at my door, and then I opened, and she was like, "Oh, hi, Glenn," and she was like really happy to see me, and then my mom kind of like came and went like, you know, saying all bad things, you know, for her to lose interest in me, you know. And, you know, something a mom don't really normally do. So she had this control. She didn't want me to have
relationship with any woman.
No, she was kind of like afraid that they were going to take me away from her, you know.
So she wanted to, possess you, really.
Yeah.
And control you totally.
Yeah. But the funny thing was that she kind of like started doing that a little bit with my sister as well, after she got married and stuff like that. You know, so it wasn't completely only with me, but as a child, it was more like funny if my sister had a boyfriend, but if I had a girlfriend, she was kind of like, she didn't like that. Yeah.
So what was some of your most scary, I mean, we've already talked about so many of your scary experiences, but that mystical, that occult feeling in your home. What was the scariest moment you remember with her suddenly changing her personality?
Well, it wasn't my home. It was actually when I was living at a collective, but it was a collective with each house had 4 apartments on one side and 4 apartments on the other side, and then there were like the same copy on the other side. So I was living there. We were, of course, doing drugs because at that time I was a punk rocker. And she called me and she said she's at the airport and she needs a place to live. And I was like, damn. The apartment next to me on the other side was available, but you know, they didn't want her to live there and stuff like that. But she could stay there, so she had a roof on top of her head, you know.
Roof over her head.
Over her head, yeah. And I had a Rottweiler at that time, a Rottweiler mix, because I started having dogs. Not only because I love dogs, but you know, dogs protect you against, you know, evil spirits. So. Then I woke up one morning. I had not curtains. What do you call those?
Drapes.
Yeah, they were down, and then I just woke up that someone was moving behind there and going like, you know, like talking, you know, to herself and stuff like that. And my dog was getting very angry. You know, he was like standing. He was like, you know, growling and stuff like that. And I was looking, what is that? And then I peeked and we kind of like met eye to eye, you know, but she didn't see me. And she was like going, and she had this really strange movement, like, you know, like this, you know. And I just took my dog, he was very big, and I just pushed me and him under the bed, and I was just lying there, but Spiky, don't say a word, just say a word. And that almost made me crap my pants. Yeah. And then
because it was so scary, because she was possessed again, or what?
Well,
why did she do that?
I don't know, but I mean, I guess she wanted to contact me, but I mean, like, she could have rang the doorbell or something, but she didn't, you know. And yeah, so that's what scared me, you know, because it was a little bit odd, the whole, also the movement she had.
Had you experienced something like that before?
We were living in a part of Sweden called Dalsland, and that was the house that had 2 floors. The upper floor were the shower, and I was standing there and I was showering. And I think I was finished or something. My mom never opened the door when the doorbell rang. So I took the towel around me, and then I went and I opened the door, but there was nobody there. So I was like, Mom, there's nobody there. And she's like, what? She became a little bit like this, you know, because she thought it was my friends playing, you know, a prank. So I closed the door, And I went into the shower. I can't remember if I continued showering or if I was just standing and drying myself. And the doorbell rang again. So I went there, and then there was nobody there. I said, Mom, there's nobody there. And she got a little bit more irritated, thinking like, oh, your friends, playing a prank, So I closed the door, and then I went from the door into the kitchen that had windows that were going out like this, and I was like standing watching, and I could see, there was a doorbell with when you press it in, the light goes off. When you remove the finger, the lights goes on. So the doorbell rang, and I saw that. The light went off, and it turned on again. And then I went around, and I opened, and I said, Mom, the doorbell is, being turned off and on, as someone is pushing it in, but it's nobody there. And then she went like, what? And then she came like walking out of her room, and then she saw me in the towel, and she looked, and she said like, did you open the door like that? Yeah. So she just grabbed me by the arm, she grabbed me by the arm, so I closed the door at the same time. And she took me into her room, where I had to like stand down on my knees, and she started like kind of like exorcising me while I was also praying, to God, to take this spirit out of me, And I didn't feel anything, so my evening kind of like went.
So she performed an exorcism on you in a way.
Yeah. And I didn't feel anything, so my.
Did she hit you at the same time, or was it just
No.
a physical movement putting you on the floor or
exactly.
on your knees?
Yeah, because this had to happen fast, And after that, my evening kind of like went on to as normal, and I went downstairs where my room was, and I got to bed, and at the moment as I was falling asleep, you feel this, then they were like this, all the way from my room up the stairs and into her room, and she just screamed. I didn't hear this, but my sister did, and she did. I only woke up when my mom was screaming. So we both ran up. My sister was going like, "What was that? What was that? What was that?" And I was going like, "What was what? What was what? What was what?" And then she said that this spirit had ran up to her bed and disappeared. So, yeah, and then. Now let's see, what order did it happen? Did I first go to the mailbox that was in the center, and pick up a mail that suddenly was there from Brazil, and then I got back. I think it was like that, and then she opened the letter, and then she read it, and she said, "Yeah, my brother came with the letter. He was the one that rang the doorbell yesterday. He's dead." So. It was her brother that died, and she says it has followed the letter.
Wow, so it was like living in the house of The Exorcist, the movie.
Yeah.
Just with Carrie's mother instead of the Ellen Burstyn character.
Yeah, in some kind of way. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, this went on a lot. I mean, the fear factor in a way, the thing that you could always predict that she would be unpredictable, and that your day could change in spur of the moment.
Yeah.
So nothing was ever totally normal.
No.
And your dad was away, maybe luckily, so that he couldn't molest you more. Yeah. But he was never really there for you.
No.
So you found goodness and stability with your foster parents when finally you moved in with them, and finally something good came to you. But at that time, a lot of pain had already manifested in your life, and you of course became very emotionally unstable because of everything you had experienced.
Yeah.
And you also talk about, which is also what we hear a lot about, MK Ultra mind control victims, that they get multiple personality disorder, which is now called dissociative personality disorder, DID. You talk about having a split personality and that you felt that you had this double-sidedness inside of you, or maybe more personalities as you went into becoming a teenager and you became a punk, but you carried a lot of pain. You had these different personalities, and you talk about one personality having superpowers.
Well, that's what it felt like. Nothing like Superman or anything like that, but it was just like well, it's maybe not gonna sound like a superpower, but I had the ability to break people, to like see right through them and just break them verbally, you know. And I enjoyed doing that. I came to this point that I enjoyed doing that because I guess you know, everything I've been through in my life, I kind of like hated perfect family, you know, and stuff like that, you know. So whenever I was at a school and you know, they were like, you know, studying whatever I was studying, theater or stuff like that. Whenever it came like people that you know, were from a perfect home. You know, you never know what a perfect home is. I mean, it can look perfect, but you never know. Then I just wanted to destroy them. You know? And I had the ability to do it, you know, like to break them down, like psychologically.
Did you do that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Because this was what you had seen your mother do to you.
I started hating the world, you know. And I admit it felt wonderful. I've never felt so strong in my whole life, you know. And
what happened when people broke down? What did you do?
Well, they could cry. They could like quit school, like never come back or anything like that, you know. Yeah.
Because of what you said, what you did to them. Was this some kind of force from within that? Was this also? Do you think that you were possessed by a demon or demonic spirits?
It struck my mind. And then I was like, I kind of like loved it. It was you know, I despite anything that had anything to do with God, and you know, and within this Gothic world, you know, you have also people that are, you know, a little bit more towards you know, Satan and demons and stuff like that, and I started loving that. And that was actually the only time in my life that everything that had like about like evil spirits and demons and stuff like that, I was never afraid of it. I was like, just bring it. I was you know, I was even so full of myself at that time that even if like devil himself would appear in front of me, I would beat him up. That's how strong I felt, you know. And it's an amazing feeling.
Did you feel that something had possessed you? That it wasn't just the real you, the core of you?
Yeah, sometimes. But I can remember if I were on drugs, on any kind of drugs, or if I weren't. I know that my mind, even though I wasn't on drugs, were like it was kind of like ping pong up there. It was like a, you know, flipper game. It was, you know, and I couldn't really grasp anything like that. I was you know, I was just in a destructive path, and everything, you know, in front of me were to be destroyed, and everything behind me should have been destroyed. You know, so.
Through all this trauma, they, you know, these abusive families can invite these, well, demonic entities, archons inside in order to control your mind with fear or hatred or angst, anxiety, and all of those things that they feed on.
Yeah.
That's what they perform in these rituals, as you know.
Yeah, also I heard that you can also become a little bit more open for this type of, what do you say, evil spirits and demons when you are in this position. Yeah.
Did it happen when you started doing drugs, or did you already feel that personality, that side, that other personality?
It was happening during I was actually starting both drinking, it was like that we were, like we were drinking, like when you're a student, you drinking, but then of course came cannabis and speed, and not so long after, of course, came also LSD.
How much LSD did you take? Did you feel that this was triggering your mind?
I didn't take so much LSD because it was very difficult. Cocaine and LSD was very difficult to get a hold of at that time. But cannabis, even though it was difficult, it was easier, and speed was easier. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And speed can give you a lot of downers, huh?
Yeah, I became aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I became. I became aggressive of speed. Yeah.
Through this mind control programming, drugs play an important role also, and LSD was introduced also through this MK Ultra, MK Delta Operation Paperclip period. During these CIA organized experiments. So all of what you went through that was very similar and could maybe be part of that, you never know.
No.
And you don't know, so maybe it's a coincidence or not. But then these LSD trips could have triggered something even further in your mind to split that personality as well. If you felt that you had these superpowers and enjoyed being evil to people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely,
You were mostly sad about your own life, and you tried to commit suicide.
Absolutely.
Several times.
Well, that is said, I also, something that is, that I always forget to tell when I tell about my life, is that as a child, believe it or not, I was laughing so much. Because I knew that I wanted to become a comedian when I was 7 years old. So I was always performing, and I was always, so strangely, even though I was often afraid and sad and scared, there were also a big part where I was also laughing a lot and performing on the street, while people thought I was an idiot. I remember I was performing in Santos in the rain. I was singing, dancing in the rain. And people were just looking at me at the bus stop, like going, what is this crazy kid doing, So you
knew from an early age that you wanted to be an actor and a performer, comedian, singer, whatever you have done.
But I almost didn't, because if I didn't come to this contact family, then I would never have, become.
And before the great transformation happened in your life that took you to, let's say, a more healing place where you are now, you tried to commit suicide 3 times, right?
Absolutely. It's because, like the past and everything you do kind of, have an ability to catch up to you, And one thing that I really lost in all this journey was the biggest love of my life, because in the end I abused her.
You abused her?
It wasn't like every day. It was one big, for me it was enough, but it was one big punch in the face that I gave her. Yeah.
You punched her in the face.
Yeah. So she really swelled up like this,
Why did it happen? How old were you? Had you gone through trauma therapy at this time?
No, I haven't. It was, in the middle of, of everything, and I suddenly got these new friends, and they were even more destructive than the other friends, you know. They wanted me to come and drink, and I said like, no, well, my girlfriend is coming. So I was living at my contact family. I think it was a big number. I think I turned 20. And then my contact family asked me to call, you know, my dad to ask him if he would come, because they were planning a dinner for me to have the day after. So I could go out with my friends, and then we have a dinner, and some neighbors would come over. And then he said to me like, no, I know what you're after. You want money. Don't worry, you're gonna get money. I'm not coming. You know, and then he hanged up. So that was going on in my head. I was going like, oh, you know, like, you know, you fucking idiot and stuff like that. So I was angry about that. Then I told my two friends like, hey, if we're gonna drink, don't bring anything, because I shouldn't do any drugs and stuff like that, you know. But what they have done is they have put speed in the liquor. So, and I didn't trust them. So I told my girlfriend that, you know, if you see something wrong with me, just go. You know where I live. You know, just go home. You know. So we were sitting there at the couch, and we were talking. I can't remember what we were talking about. She said something, and I can remember that that I just turned and I said something about like, no, it's not like that, you know. And she looked at me and she said, well, I should go now. But instead of letting her go, I said like, you're staying. So it became like this, no, remember, I should go. I was like, you're not going anywhere, you know. And then black. And we were out on the street. I was standing on top of her and breathing heavily. And she was saying, Glenn, how could you do that? It was, you know, like this. So, yeah. And that's like, you know, for me, you know, it's, you know, it become there. I think it started everything, you know, like what am I doing? What is going on with me and stuff like that. I always had an ability to, you know, to reach a point in my destructive path, and then I start questioning it, like what the hell is going on, you know.
Was that just a one-time experience, or did you have other experiences behaving like that in relationships with women?
I never hit a girl. That was the first time. But I remember that I was like treating girls like trash. With all this like eyeliner and everything like that, dressed looking good as a gothic, I never had problems getting ladies. But the moment I had sex with them and I was finished, I threw them out. You know, I just got cold. You know, I didn't show any emotion or anything like that.
Because every time something would get too close emotionally, you would switch off?
No, I didn't care about them. At that point, I didn't care at all about them. I just, you know, they were part of my destruction.
Did you involve yourself in a lot of relationships? How about having gone through this sexual assault as well, and also the beatings as a child? How was your sexuality? How did that come? Did you become bisexual? Or was it? Well,
I did experiment a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. But you know, I felt that you know, that wasn't anything for me. So and I just wanted to, you know, be with girls. You know.
And did you involve yourself in a lot of different relationships, but never a stable
one?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I had so many different, you know, like I have had so many, you know, one-night stands, girlfriends. You know, I went like, yeah, I wanna love you, but nah, it's kind of like, you know, like it fades away really quickly. Move on to the next one. Move on to the next one. Move on to the next one.
Because anything that had to do with love or anything that was
I didn't want anything love. No, I didn't want any love. No, not at all. I wanted this love of my life. This girl I wanted. When I fucked that up, I didn't want anything else. So, and you know, so I just wanted sex, of course. So when there were a girl that wanted to have sex with me, I said like, okay, fine, we're gonna have sex, but that's it. There were one night where this is actually true. Two girls started fighting over me, and it doesn't happen so often. but they started calling each other bitch and stuff like that, And it was in the lady room, And she said, "No, I'm going home with him. No, I'm going home. No, I will go home with him." Like this, And so I said, no, yeah, they came and got me, and they said they're fighting over you. And then I, of course, took the one I thought looked best, And I was like, yeah. So we're like this, like, so you're fighting about me? You're fighting over me, huh? So yeah, I'm gonna, and they were like, yeah, you're gonna get it. And then we get home. And she could just see that I was emotionally turned off, and I had sex with her. And then when I was done, I said, like, get out of here. So yeah, that was the type of monster I had become.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then what about the suicide attempts? What happened?
So I stole a friend's can of sleeping pills, and I just choked it all down. Kept
How many?
Partying. I can't remember. It was. I remember it was quite full, but I don't know. Maybe it wasn't full enough. And then when the party, sometime during the party, I jumped on my bike and then I biked towards my contact family, and I don't remember anything. I woke up under a blanket of snow in the ditch. I just stood up, brushed the snow away from me, and went in, and my contact family, they were awake. So, oh, there you are. The neighbors were telling us that you were lying in the ditch,
So you weren't affected by the sleeping pills and all of those things you took? Mm. Do you think that you were managed to throw it up somewhere?
I can't remember. Or if the snow, froze me down in some kind of way that that it got driven out of my system. I have no idea.
But you wanted to end your life there.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even think twice about it. I just took them and boom, Yeah.
That was the first time.
That was the first time. The second time I stole a company car van, and there is this Angritz bridge in Gothenburg that I think is the highest bridge. And I had a plan that I would take that. I was going to drive this van and drive it over the bridge. I don't know how I started it. I have no clue. As I drove down the road on the highway, I kind of lost control. I went into a fence. It was the grass, so I was out of the road. Then I took off my coat, went to the front and started janking and pushing it, stuff like that. And then I went in and I put it in reverse, and I managed to come loose. So I reversed, and then I drove up on the road again, and then, funny, in a circle, and boom, I hit the same spot again. Then the van didn't want to start anymore. So I kind of went out of the van and started hitchhiking. Shortly after, the police came, and they stopped and asked me, "What are you doing here?" "Well, I'm trying to get home, And I looked at the van and I said, "Well, I'm actually trying to fill it up with gas." And I was going "No, shit, what am I saying? No, I have nothing to do with the van. I have nothing to do with this van. I'm just trying to get home." And they were all right, stay right here. We're going to check out this van. So they opened it and they took out this coat, and I was like, "Who's this?" Normally I could have said it's not mine, but my wallet was in there. So I was that's mine, And they were okay. So
had you stolen cars before?
No, I have no.
So you never managed, obviously, to drive over the bridge in that van?
No.
And then they took you to the police station. They arrested you?
Yeah, and they took me to a hospital and took blood samples from me to see what I have taken. and I had to wait until the early morning before I got interrogated. And that was also, I mean, in one way, you know, everything I've done, I don't feel that I deserved the luck, but there was this nice man, police officer, that started asking, so what do you do normally and stuff like that. I told him I'm studying theater, I want to become an actor. And then he said like, oh, I love actors. So he asked me, well, what actually happened yesterday? And I was like, well, this and this and that, you know. And then he kind of like called my bullshit, and he went like, you know what? I want you to go back and study and become an actor, and I never want to see you here again. And then he made up a story, and I could not be, you know, what do you call it, to the crime. I could not
prosecuted.
I couldn't, yeah, but I get this letter where it said that I could not be connected to the crime.
All right.
Yeah. So I was off the hook. Yeah.
So something was holding its hand over you there as well.
Yeah, it feels that I've done it a couple of times actually. Yeah.
And then what was the third time?
The third time was when I had to throw my mom out, and that was here in Denmark actually.
Why did you move to Denmark, by the way? That's just a footnote.
Because I wanted to do more physical stuff, and then I heard about the school here in Denmark that was international, where you studied mime and different kind of storytelling.
You're also a mime.
I am also a mime, yes. I am.
Yeah. And you do animation also, right?
Yeah.
We can get into that as well, but I mean, you started studying acting here, and you were still much younger at this time, and then your mom came over.
My mom came over. Let's see, that was actually after I got married. She came over 2007.
And you got married in 2007?
2006. I got married 2006.
When you were in your mid or late 20s?
Yeah, late 20s. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, another call from the airport. I need a place to live, and I took her in because my studio was our studio was kind of big. You weren't allowed to live there, you know. And but she was just, at that point, she was so destroyed, and she was kind of like, she didn't sleep. She was walking around all the time. We had like this big room where we arranged some mattress, and then we were sleeping in a smaller room, but it had like glass windows, and we could just see the shadows on the walls, like her walking forward and back, almost like a restless spirit. Like, you know, just talking.
And she was older at this time?
She was older and crazier, if you can say that. Yeah.
Oh, even crazier?
Even crazier, yeah. But
how could that even be possible?
But at that point, she couldn't touch me. So in this way, I wasn't afraid. But I wasn't afraid of her, you know, like harming me physically. But both me and Lynn, we were like kind of... because I told her about everything, you know.
And Lynn was the woman you married.
Yeah, absolutely.
And your mother tried to prevent you from having relationships with women, generally from an early time on.
Yeah,
so how did she get along with your wife then?
She loved her. That's strange. She loved her.
Really?
Yeah. She was always talking about her, even until the day she died.
So they connected in a way, even though your wife at that time knew what you had gone through. You told her everything. And she even saw how crazy she was, your mom, your mother.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. She even meets my dad sometimes. And then she can like, you know, when we're home, go like, oh, that fucking disgusting man, you know. Say that, but then, you know, when she meets him, she we all pretend that nothing had happened and stuff like that, you know. When
you are with your dad?
Yeah, when I meet him, I go up and meet him sometimes, yeah.
And you still do that?
Yeah, I still do that, yeah. But I very rarely, and even though he's kind of like crying and wants me to come often, and even though his other wife calls sometimes and say, why are you not visiting? Remember, it's your dad, you know. But, you know...
you never discussed it with him? You never You never put the
Oh, yeah, I
spotlight into that mess, into that terrible darkness. That
Well,
he,
yeah, I did, and then he said like crazy. Who wasn't crazy at that time? That's was his only response, and then I realized that okay, I know what I'm dealing with here, and I will get nothing out of this.
So that's denial.
Completely
Trying to justify himself.
Yeah.
Did you ever confront your mother with everything she had done? Like really confront her with it?
Both me and my sister did, and my sister, I think she did it the most, and she was also denying. But before she died, I wasn't there because my sister was more visiting her since she lives in Sweden. But she said that our mom kind of said that she was sorry for everything she had done. So she actually kind of acknowledged. But I'm very surprised. If my father would do that. I don't think so.
Were your sister equally traumatized by everything that happened to her, or more or less than you? How has her life been, just briefly?
I think she has been equally traumatized, yeah. But the only thing different is that I went to see a psychiatrist, and even though drugs are bad, I think still that it was kind of like a little bit what do you call it?
Therapeutical?
Yeah. And all my anger and reaction and stuff like that, I was getting a lot of stuff out, even though a lot of people, like getting hurt by it,
Did you also do what they call plant medicine, which is ayahuasca or magic mushrooms, those herbal drugs?
I tried actually magic mushroom, but I was actually once, and I was here in Denmark. So I tried that, but it had a very small effect on me. I think the guy that had it, he didn't have so much. So, bummer.
Well, but I mean, so how would you? So your marriage broke up after a while. It didn't last.
Yeah. It 2012. My wife wanted to separate. Actually, I was destructive up until 2008, and I have a big scar on my leg to prove it. So
what happened?
I was still drinking sometimes, and every time I drank, I kind of like became destructive and wanted to destroy myself, And also,
like being a cutter. Some people.
No, I was more like doing stupid stuff and didn't care about my life. So I was like 2008. We were living in France, and I kind of went into a pub that I shouldn't have gone into. There's a lot of areas that you don't. And it started with me getting punched in my face. I was provoking. And then. Two women, taking me into a car, driving me off somewhere else. I think they were from East, some kind of Arabic country and stuff like that. And I was like, I didn't care. Some way I even thought it was like a little bit exciting, But I was a little bit dizzy because of the punch that I think was like straight on my nose, but it didn't break or anything like that. And then when we get out of the car, they started pushing me, and I couldn't really understand anything. And they wanted me to take out the money from, the bank machine. So I did, but they wanted more. I was like, and then they started pushing me even more and punching me even more, and I was like, oh easy, So I took out some more, but that was my limit because I had a Visa Electron, so it has a very small limit. And then they got really disappointed and angry, and so I started running. And then like everything looks the same in the darkness of Paris. So I didn't know where I was, but I saw this yard that had like this fence with spikes on, And I kind of like looked, I think I live over there. So I was going like, oh, I'm going to use my ability to climb and, you know, be a monkey like I always did, you know. So I climbed and then it just went into my leg. One of the spikes went into my legs and I couldn't get off the fence. So, and
you were stuck on the fence.
I was stuck on the fence, yeah. And actually, the scar is right there where you don't want it. You know, where, you know, there is this big giant vein. So, but what I did was that since I couldn't get off and the street was completely empty, I did like this, my foot, you know, I did like this. So I locked my leg, you know, and then I can't remember anything. I passed out. So I woke up hanging upside down, just on this leg. Well, this was kind of like hanging like this, you know, and I was like, okay. I pulled myself up again, and I was like trying to get off the fence, and then I passed out again, you know. And the next time I woke up, there was this French guy, and he was like, you know, like French people do, you know, like they were like, qu'est-ce que, you know, like, what are you doing there, you know? So I was hanging upside down, so I just grabbed him like, get me down from here. And he was like, okay. And then I passed out again, you know. And then I just woke up by, you know, like these sparkles, you know, they were sawing the spike off because they could not remove it, you know. And if I didn't lock my leg before I passed out, I would have like completely, you know, so yeah, so.
So, what transformed your life? Because you did become an actor, you did become a mime, you did become a performance artist, you've been involved in a lot of different types of productions, and now you're also doing some film work, different types of film work, and you're being creative. You've transformed all of this darkness.
Everything I went through, you will never get rid of this. This will be part of you your whole life. Either you will learn to live with it, do something constructive and productive with it. Everybody cannot be an artist, but I can promise that art, even though you want to show it to someone or not, it will always help you. It will always help you. I mean, like, in one way, we have become so disconnected from everything, you know, even our souls and, you know, our minds and stuff like that. So I mean, like, I know that before, for a long time ago, people were maybe like sitting with a knife, you know, with a wooden stick, creating something fantastic just for themselves. Not that they were like taking a picture of and posting on Instagram. I think just them, because it also becomes some kind of like meditation, you know, therapeutical meditation. So yeah, my transformation was actually this with France, was actually because I was, you know, the fear of also waking up in a hospital. I remember turning and I saw this guy with one leg. He had one leg. And the first thing I did was just like, whoom, going, fuck, and looking down. But then my whole leg was there, but it was like this big, you know, swollen, you know. So that was like, okay, I cannot continue with this. Either I die or I live, you know.
And you quit the drugs?
Yeah, absolutely. And today I can have drinks. I can have cocktails, like one or two, but I haven't been drunk. I actually got drunk not by will, 2019, because someone I know have committed suicide. And he hanged himself because he was a circus artist and he has become old. And without doing circus, he had no other purpose in life. That's what he thought. So he hanged himself. And he wrote a note on his door, dead by free will. So, yeah. So people know, okay, call the blah blah blah, what you call, to come and take him down and stuff like that. At the same time, I was doing a show that ended with me hanging myself from the same house that he used to be part of. So that became like, and that was the premiere I found out of this, and I was like, oh, okay. I was playing this drunken polar bear, this man in a polar bear costume. They were just drinking and eating from trash and stuff like that. That was one of my roles, and then I also played another role. But so his journey was, always moving to this place where he was going to hang himself. And the director didn't know this, because I think then he wouldn't have taken away. But yeah, they were really traumatic for some people in the audience that saw this, because they also knew him, And continuing with that, 4 days after the last show, I was going to train over at Sydhavn by Copenhagen Boulders. And I almost didn't go, and then I decided to go. And as I was biking there, there was this group of people. And since I'm a mime, and since I've also been, raised on the street, I learned to see patterns and how people are supposed to move. And I knew something wasn't right, so I stopped and I biked back, and I said, like, is everything okay? And they said, like, no, there's a girl out there. She jumped from the bridge. She's trying to kill herself. I'm like, okay, because I'm also a lifeguard, but not a coast guard. I'm a lifeguard, but swimming pool. And so I did what everyone should do in a situation like this. It's November and it's cold. Even though it's November and it's cold, December, you should always take your clothes off. So you have something warm to put on after you come out of the water. If you jump in with your clothes on, everything is going to be wet and cold. So I jumped in and I swam over, and I saved her life.
Did you?
Yeah. What made her come in was that, actually what I said was that she wasn't going anywhere. And then I said, then I'm not going anywhere. And then she said, but then you die. And I said, yeah, well, then we die together. Because, she was completely alone out there. Completely alone. And people say it's selfish to commit suicide, but they can't understand the loneliness that you feel. So what these people need is actually to feel some connection and to feel that they are not alone. And that was actually made her swim in to the shore with me.
So you did something really good there for somebody else. So again, you were confronted almost like a mirror of something you had done yourself, tried to do yourself, something that had happened to you. You were confronted by some of those things again and again. You were confronted by some of the trauma you were going through as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a reflection of some of those things you had gone through.
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah.
So the universe is teaching us.
It is, definitely. I mean, we're all connected, and
where are you now in this?
It was too much with this guy and playing this role and saving this person's life. I went to this Christmas party without eating. But I was also told there were going to be food there, which were snacks. Snacks is not food. And without thinking, I took one glass of champagne, another glass of champagne, and then I was like, And then I myself was in an accident. I kind of like went, boom, on my way home, like totally scraped up this side of the face. Even a piece here was, I think you can feel it if you touch it, were missing. And I really went down to the ground, like boom, and that was actually where I like, no, getting too close to this again. No, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna, like I'm really careful when I drink alcohol. That so yeah, so that was a little bit setback but in a way not, but yes, but yeah,
You were confronted by the past by drinking, which would also happen if you do drugs.
We have to learn to live with this. It might sound hopeless that I will never get healed, but like for many people that are born with grandparents, parents, and then you go through all these life events like graduating and stuff like that, they're making you whole. It makes you whole. It gives you a fundamental to stand on that's very stable. I will never have that. But what I can do, and that is like to help and try to help others and talk to them, and also by creating art,
This is a show about discovering truth, researching truth, searching for the truth. What is the truth behind the lies? The lies that we are being fed from the politicians, from the media, from everything we've been told, maybe from the educational system, and also going into a world of understanding what is actually also happening, like these dark rituals and these sects and cults and places where people go to extremes, and a lot is hidden, and a lot of people have been exposed to severe trauma and very, very broken families, and maybe they don't have the possibility to heal from it very well, or to talk about it, and to really get, become a full person, so to speak. What do you think is the truth for you? If you look at the world right now, what is important for you? What is truth inside of you?
What I strongly believe is that I am you, you are me. There is an energy inside of us. This energy is the same energy that's sparking the life in plants. It's not separated, it's united. It is the same energy, And of course, we have developed different personalities, but when we die, we will become the same energy again. That's what I believe strongly, in. So, and it's the same energy that made the sun turn into a sun, or the universe become, the universe.
So the soul journey.
Yeah.
Do you think the soul will die?
I think that we have to discover what the soul really is, because it has many meanings. I even read recently that the soul is more seen as a psychology thing, and that even religion are minimizing the purpose of the soul today.
Purpose?
Even if it is metaphorically, or if it is a thing that can travel out of our body, then of course, with all this Instagram and likes and stuff like that, our souls are being taken from us,
But they're trying to hijack people's consciousness, and probably maybe also on a soul level with all of the whole smart grid and the electromagnetic frequencies that we're being bombarded with from all sides, from all of this wireless technology, and in general, just electromagnetic, this grid around Earth right now.
I haven't studied the stuff that you have studied, so I can only speak from my experiences of
But do you believe that there's a soul that will never die?
It's in form of this energy. That we will either become something else. Like we will be a part of everything. We will go back to become a part of everything. And that is, because energy itself can never be destroyed, So, but I mean, like, watching people confront people, me as a comedian, and then when people stop laughing physically and say lol, that's scary for me.
Certainly. They're starting to use meme language or internet language.
Yeah.
You've experienced that?
Yeah, I think we are becoming more mechanized, mechanic, and an empty shell,
This technological age, like being linked with AI in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's sometimes the algorithm is deciding your fate.
That's mind control as well. The media is mind control. The computer, the internet, it's all programming. Everything
mind
is
control.
programming.
They've started already for a really long time ago. With torture and stuff like that. We can even go back to the when they believed in witches and were burning them. And to the 50s when they started with experimenting with LSD on U.S. soldiers, and so definitely, and that a lot of historical pictures were manipulated. Like for example, the woman the first took the cigarette. It was made so that everyone would see the image of the free woman. And all women were going to buy, and they actually did. The next day, all of them went out and bought a pack of cigarettes. I think it was.
We all know how incredibly easy it is to control people, to program their brains, to believe just about anything.
Yeah.
You can tell people through the media and through repetition anything, and they'll believe it. They'll be fearful about what they hear in the media, about their health, about the world, about races, about gender.
With the media, it's so easy. You just need the right angle, and then the people won't see the rest behind, to the left or to the right.
Exactly.
Also, there's a lot of things going on Instagram. It's been on the news, small kids selling their picture of their feet, and getting paid by pedophiles. And that's been in Swedish news, and for me, that is bizarre,
Children are selling pictures of their feet.
Yeah, it's been on the news to pedophiles, and in Sweden it's called Swish instead of mobile pay, which is where you can transfer money to a mobile phone, And it seems like the parents, they're not keeping track of the money going in and out, If I were a parent, I would definitely go like, okay, I can see you received 500 kronor from a lot of people. Why? I would ask why. What is this? And but it seems like parents today, they are too occupied with cell phone and CrossFit and yoga and all this stuff that
That sounds horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really? So that was discovered?
That is discovered, and I think there were some kids at the school at a school that were wondering why is this going on, and they didn't even know. They were asking the report, why are they buying these pictures? What are they gonna use it for?
This is a life story, and it's the wild stuff. We went into the really wild stuff. Yeah. But what is your most important message for people watching this and getting a glimpse into your difficult past, and now you have a good life? I mean, what is your most important message for them watching this now?
It would definitely be that even though how hard life has been, and it definitely has been hard for some people, don't give up, Don't let the past define who you are and who you're gonna be, So there's always a way to, find a purpose to live again, and to, we can never have a normal life, but we can definitely have a joyful life. We just need to find, the right. But don't stress it. Don't rush. Don't get hooked up on likes on Instagram and Facebook. you know, and you know, don't join a cult, you know, because some people do that, you know. And remember, the simplest thing in life is always the best. It's always the best. Yeah.
And you do it creatively. You are creative.
Yeah, definitely. I always, besides being an actor, I wanted to be an animator, so and a storyteller. So 2016, I took that up. So I started, and yeah, now I'm gonna make a artistic miniseries that is gonna be involved a lot about this, you know. Both sexual abuse, trafficking, you know, and do something creative about it, about this, you know. At the same time, hopefully, I hope it will help, you know, some people in the end. At the moment, I'm only writing on a script and reading up a lot, you know. For this, it's called, in English, now it's going to be very badly translated, in the breath of the demons, which will be some supernatural stuff. Yeah.
So you're writing a fictional miniseries. You're writing the screenplay for it. It will be a miniseries in 4 parts.
3 parts.
3 parts.
Yeah.
And with lots of fiction in it, but based on a lot of things you know, a lot of things you went through in your life.
Yeah.
And that's the way to transform some of the stuff you've been through and use it in a creative way.
In a creative way, yeah, absolutely.
That's fascinating. How can, if people want to contact you for maybe an interview or to know more about you, can they do that?
It's www.siguer.com.
It's been fascinating. It's been very mind-blowing to go into your story here and to hear, you know, this life story that's been so traumatic and difficult, and it takes a lot of bravery to go into these details. So it's been wonderful talking to you about this, and hopefully this glimpse into somebody's life can maybe be a useful thing and be an inspiration to some people and very informative to others.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
But I want to thank you so much, SERAFÍN ZIQUER XAVIER, for being on Age of Truth TV.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
This was part 1 of our Life Stories series. Thank you so much to SERAFÍN ZIQUER XAVIER, also known as Glenn. And thanks to all of you for watching Age of Truth TV. You can support us by clicking onto our website, ageoftruth.tv. And please like our videos, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell for notifications. You can sign up for our newsletter on our website, ageoftruth.tv as well. Please also subscribe to our alternative channels on BitChute and Brighteon. On behalf of the Age of Truth TV team, we thank you so much for watching, and thank you for all of your support, and we'll see you again soon. It's great, huh?
Yeah, but you get a little bit dizzy because of all the information you have to remember, and you're like,